all right. Here we go with another episode of Coffee with the Founder. We got another outstanding guest. And Brother Angel, what we're doing with the Coffee Talks are really trying to introduce people to the good people in the network, in the family of WPC. And so after meeting you, I just really felt like you would be a great person to be able to share and highlight the great work that you're doing. So I'm glad you can join us to talk a little bit about that. So let's just get started. Can you just introduce yourself and tell us who are you and what's the work that you do?
Yes, thank you, my brother, for having me here in this platform. My name is Angelo Lagares. I'm a person in long-term recovery. And what that means for me that I'm not there in jail, you know? I'm this person that, you know, I was born in New York and raised in the Dominican Republic. I was born and raised in the Caribbean and in New York, both places, because my mother was going to school there in New York at the time when I was born. And then she sent me to the Dominican Republic. And then I was back and forth, getting like the two cultures, you know? And what I do is I found that I'm the director of LARA, Latino Recovery Advocacy. And I put that name because when I came 15 years ago, when I came back to recovery, I came to Florida and I started, you know, seeing all the movement when the movement started, young people in recovery, and I see, you know, and I used to see all the advocacy work, and I said, well, but this is great, you know, for the first time in history, you know, it's really advocacy. The advocacy is getting strong because the opiate epidemic, right? The opiate epidemic hit Florida 20 years ago, and then 15 years ago, everybody went like, let's get results. Let's get policy change. Let's change the whole system. They didn't do that in 1980 when I was smoking crack. That didn't happen. They didn't do that in 1970 when the heroin epidemic attacked the people of colors. Okay, when we talk about policy, when we talk about politics, we have to understand that the last 80 years, people of color have been affected, okay? And that's reality, okay? By the policy and laws regarding the drug on war. When you talk about the drug on war, when you talk about the drug on wars, you talk about discrimination of people of color for 80 years. Now, it's the opiate epidemic, and I understand all that, but now, when hit, you know, middle-class white people, everything changed, you know? And when I saw that, I said, okay, I gotta, you know, what? Let me see. I was working through a database through SAMHSA in a helpline. And I have the privilege to connect to everybody in the United States to that phone. It was a helpline. People call there, you know, in crisis intervention. And I used to tell, oh, go to this treatment or go here, go to the emergency room. And I find out that when people call me, like in Spanish, I didn't have no place. 57 million people in this country. You don't have 4 treatment in Spanish. 4. I'm talking about 57 million people. And you don't have 4 places that they can go with all levels of care. It's thousands and thousands of recovery services, you know. And then when I saw that, I said, well, I got to do something, you know. And I created LARA. It's a nonprofit, you know, that promote recovery support services in Spanish and advocate for more services and change on policy that affect, you know, people of color and a specific Spanish language, because it's not in Spanish, right? When you talk about Miami, New York, Boston, you know, in Texas, California, it's a big population and they don't have no recovery services. It's not what Bill White called community recovery capital. Bill White, you know, the great writer, my friend, mentor, when he talk about recovery capital, it's those elements that you need to have sustained recovery. Those elements in the community. And when you talk about what, and this is where we're going to come from, what else the outreach that you're talking about hundreds of powerful recovery communities, organization in this country. You're talking about Faces and Voices, Young People in Recovery, shatterproof. You're talking about a lot big, and I respect a lot of these people, and you know, they're doing a lot of great work, but what they doing for people of color? What is their plan? What is the outreach? The people not affected. No, you know, they fucking blind. They blind.
Yeah.
And then I understand like before the advocacy work, you know, health disparities. This is the problem. Health disparities, we're not dealing with this in the recovery movement. We're not touching that. You know, and maybe it's an uncomfortable conversation because I know everybody's doing great work. Everything is transforming. Language, when you talk about language, oh, I'm a person long-term recovery. I'm substance use disorder. Back in my days, you're a fucking crackhead. You're a crack whore. You know what I'm saying? No, let's change the language. Let's change everything. And that's good for all, but let's address this, and that's what I'm fighting for. You know, this is what I'm doing. I'm presenting this, you know, a Facebook company, you know, by Greg Williams, the director of Anonymous People. He called me one day and said, oh, Facebook is doing this documentary, the opioid epidemic and the opioids. You know, I had experience with methadone and opioid. I said, listen, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do that in Spanish. You know, and then when Facebook came, I said, I'm going to do this in Spanish. If you want, you can put subtitles in English. You know, and they did, you know, and that's like the first message. This is so insane that when you Google Latino recovery advocacy, the only name who come up is mine. And people say, that's good. No, that's not good. That's insane. Because, you know, like when we talk about, let's talk beyond. Let's talk about Charlie Parker, Joel Contrain. Let's talk about the 50. How these people was affected. Cirrhosis, overdose, you know. Let's talk about Billie Holiday. How they went after her. You know, this is insane. And that's what I tell these kids now. Go to history. You want to understand about how disparities go 400 years back. And you're going to understand about public health and people of colors. And that's going to have to change. And I'm willing to, you know, I'm doing this like I was working, you know, doing intervention and treatment and doing that. In the last year, I've been doing full-time work with my organization, like creating awareness, you know, about this. And if I gotta go drive Uber, if I gotta do whatever I gotta do to tell myself to continue to do this work, this is what I'm gonna do, you know. And I think I've been, you know, getting some changes because now, you know, PCA Colorado, the great Rob Roshi, my friend, he's in Colorado. He's the owner, you know, and director of PCA Colorado. He's like Academy for Recovery Coaching and RCO. He's building a lot of recovery there. And he called me and told, I got a grant for you so we can do a bilingual RCO. That's a big step, you know, in Colorado. And we're doing that. We're doing small changes now. We're going to have the first recovery coach in Spanish in a month with Ginger Ross and Choices Academies and Alex, you know. And I think, you know, 10 years I've been doing this. This is not like I wasn't yesterday, you know. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Now, man, you just laid out a lot of good stuff there, bro. I wish we had 2 hours and 30 minutes, but let me start with crack, heroin versus opioids, which essentially is black and brown, white. You laid out just again what seems to be just some disparities in the care, in the resources, and the attention paid to white and opioids versus the history of destruction, drug war, opioids, heroin in black and brown communities. Fast forward to today in the work you're doing, and it's just really alarming to me. You say I Google Latinx, Latino recovery, and I get one name, right? Like really one person with the experience and the knowledge, and people are saying that's good, and you're like, no, let's expand that, right? I don't know, what's your sense of just black and brown? Are there, in addition to the lack of Latinx folks in there, are there a lot of other people of color in the recovery movement as we look at the next 25 years? And what's the relationship between Black and brown communities in reference to addressing some of these challenges associated with addiction and recovery?
I know about Andrew Johnson. He got the Detroit Project. He was there with us in Mobilized Recovery. And I think Mobilized Recovery, Ryan Hampton is doing something great, to get everybody together. Now they got wrapped, the Recovery Advocacy Project. And I think we need to connect more. We need to connect more and to do more like town halls and talk about this together. I don't see that happening, I don't see it but I'm willing, I'm open. You have to understand, a lot of people work for companies and agencies and they're afraid. I gotta tell you, I don't care. I work for, this is my LARA. This is what I do. I got literally all the money that I put in, I don't got no grants. All the money that I put in is my money. I don't have a lot of money, but I can survive. You know what I'm saying? I'm doing it. But a lot of people, they have responsibility with their bosses, and they're afraid. They can talk, but they they're not like me. They don't put it out there, And I think I'm making changes because now a lot of agencies, they're thinking about it because I'm putting it out there, but they don't care. Like the big agency, recovery organization, they don't care. They tell me, yes, I understand. Oh, yeah, I understand. Put the fucking money on it. Yeah. What's the plan for the outreach to go to the ghetto? Let's go to the barrio. This is funny, okay? I was in a conference one day in Palm Beach, right? And I'm driving, and I gotta drive through the ghetto to go home, right? And when I see liquor store, shit to play numbers, liquor store, you know what I'm saying? Then when I drive to Boca Raton, you got Whole Food, you got the yoga studio, you got all the meetings. Even the meetings, the 12-step meetings are segregated. And that's insane. But we have to understand that 50 years ago, we couldn't be in the same restaurant. And how that affecting the public health. We're so behind in yeah, we advance, it's been in advance, but in public health, you cannot, it's a video that I wish we can share here in this screen, or I can send it to you, about Emma Robinson. She's an advocate from London, right? And she advocates for policy and change, right? And let me see if you can see this.
Idea, a kind of suggestion of what racism could be. There are different layers, right? So let's say the first layer is internalized racism, a set of private beliefs, prejudices, and ideas that individuals have about the superiority of white people and the inferiority of people of color. And for people of color, it might manifest as internalized oppression. Among white people, it might manifest as internalized racial superiority. Even if we don't kind of articulate it in our heads, that's in our consciousness, right? Interpersonal racism might be the expression of racism between individuals. It occurs when individuals interact and their private beliefs affect their actions, right? Affect their actions. So this is what we kind of talk about.
Now, Brother Angel, I think, that video is really so in line with the kind of speakers and presenters that we get at the White Privilege Conference, talking about white supremacy systemically, internalized, individually. What I'm wondering, as you watch that, listen to that, how does that manifest itself in the recovery addiction arena?
Well, she's saying, she's telling, let me see. Okay.
Then we can think about maybe institutional racism as a discriminatory treatment, as unfair policies and practices, inequitable opportunities and impacts within organizations and institutions that are based on race that routinely produce racially inequitable outcomes for people of color and advantages for white people.
That's it. That's it. That's your question there. I don't got those sophisticated words this master got, but the recovery movement privileged white people, and that's reality. And they know, and I know it's a difficult conversation, and I know some of those people got a good heart, and maybe, but we have to understand that's all they know. That's all they know. Grandfather, mother, that's all they know.
Yeah.
You know, they know about people, and most of them, but that's all they know. You know, what they used to is they ignore health disparities, you know? And that's what we are presenting. That's why we have to understand that addiction is universal. And we are the most affected people in the last 100 years. When you talk about drugs, it's impossible to talk about drugs and not talk about Latin America. We produce 80% of the drugs. How are you going to talk about drugs and not talk about Colombia? How you talk about, you know, like, if you understand the politics and the crack war, when you see a documentary, you see that the government make deals in Nicaragua and put all the drugs in California, in New York, you know, because what's affecting, you know, Black and Brown community. You have to go deep, but we have to talk about this. We have to have more program about this. We have to have more mobilized recovery. And we have to, like, you know, this is the big part of this. Why agency, federal and state agency, they not supervising the standard. When you talk about cultural competence, so you know how many pages got this book? 280. 280, SAMHSA. Talking about cultural competence. And you know what they do? When you're a clinician, when you're a therapist, when you go to peace support training, you have to pass cultural competence. That's the law. But you know what they do? They fucking put it in the truck. They don't apply cultural competence. They don't apply it. But okay, why the federal government and the state government are not supervising that? In Miami, from Palm Beach to Miami, it's 1 million people speak Spanish. No 3 treatments. Why? You know whose fault is it? The state. And I spoke to this guy. I'm not going to mention his name, but from Children and Family, the Department of Children and Family of Florida. And I told him that. You know what he told me? I don't know. How the fuck they do that? You got a master in social work. Are you? He said, oh, I don't know. And I was like, really? I got to be real diplomatic because I can go like New York Street in a fucking second. You know, I'm not cured. But I was like, you don't know? You know, and that's why we have to fight, you know?
Yeah, I feel like when we're dealing with the drug war and these levels of drugs that are coming into our communities, the impact, I mean, there's a level of it that right now, I don't know if I can have much of an impact on, but where I think we can have day-to-day impact is helping people, you know, really get their lives back together, get their shit together, telling our stories, partner with them, collaborating with them. And where I grow frustrated is, like you said, if you go to a meeting and everybody's white, everything is white, every reading is white, every reflection is white, every joke is white, every moment is white, it just doesn't feel like it's welcoming. And so I'm wondering, like, what do you envision in reference to day-to-day impact, the things that you can control, the people you can touch? What are the things that you're seeing that we need to put in place to help more people of color, especially, but people in general that are dealing with addiction and recovery?
This is what I think. I think when you talk about people of color, inside the culture, it's out of fear. Inside the culture, it's out of, I don't trust these systems. Inside of the culture, it's not a culture about getting help. You don't ask for help. If you're a Latino man from New York, smoking crack and selling crack, you're not going to ask for help because that's weakness. First, we got education inside the culture and say it's okay to get help. I got help. But We have to have Netflix documentaries. I talked to you about that. We have to get the Netflix documentary and talk about education and masses. We have to have education. We have to force that. We have to force this organization, big organization. They got a lot of money to do an outreach. I'm willing to design a specific outreach for people of colors because these people are afraid. If a white kid comes, oh, let's do fucking recovery. What the fuck you talking? You know, like, we have to be ourselves out there. Like, let's do this. Let's do a community, an event of the community of education. Let's do training. I just built a training with Choices Academy. Ginger Ross, this lady, right? And Alex. And we built a training, the first training of recovery coaching in Spanish. Listen to me, one training. You got CCAR, you got all this great big school. They don't have one curriculum in Spanish. And I think what I'm going to do with that curriculum is train a lot of people, education in Spanish. This is what it is. This is what it is. And then they train somebody else. And we build RCO bilingual, and cultural appropriate RCOs. That's what we got to do. Build that and forcing people to get the money, like Faces and Voices of Recovery. Young people in recovery. You knew, Justin, they got 60,000 of volunteers in this country. Check, go to the website to see if they got somebody in Spanish or they got, African American doing outreach. They don't know. They don't know that. But we have to, present that. It's going to be like we cannot talk about change. We cannot talk about building community. They say building recovery-ready community. We cannot talk about that if we don't talk about racial justice. Because advocacy without that basically is advocacy without a soul. That's that.
Advocacy without diversity is advocacy without a soul.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, man. I'm wondering what you see are the challenges around addiction and recovery over the next 25 years. It seems to me that, especially in light of COVID-19, which, I don't want to make light of, but it's like another important challenge that comes on the horizon for us as a nation. And I think, again, some of the challenges around crack, which it seems like gone away, which we know it hasn't, or heroin, it seems like it's gone away, which we know it hasn't, in reference to conversation, attention, and of course, even opioids to some extent, even though it seems like a white conversation, it doesn't seem to be as loud as it was, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. It's almost like it may have gone away. So can you give us a sense of, what are the challenges you're seeing in reference to addiction and recovery today? And what do you foresee will be some of those challenges as we look ahead, let's say the next 25 years, when we can see ourselves still in there, challenging, assisting, supporting, encouraging, so on and so forth?
Well, when we talk about, that's another public health matter, really serious, when you talk about, when you talk about COVID-19, in harm reduction, this is something important about harm reduction. All the effort in politics of harm reduction in history is only focused on opiate and heroin. When you talk about harm reduction, you're not talking about alcohol, crack, or cocaine, and meth, and that's another problem, right? But the effort, like when we talk about COVID-19, Bill White just wrote yesterday about what's the future in that. William White, I'm going to send it to you. He wrote yesterday about COVID-19 in the future, right? It's another public matter, but addiction is going to continue. It's more. Mental health and addiction is going to grow. Insecurity, people lost their job. It's going to grow. It's going to become double monster, and we got to be prepared. And this is what it is. It's 2020, and we have this conversation. We should have this conversation 15, 20 years ago. But we having the conversation now. And we're going to continue to make effort. I think in 20 years, I think we can build a lot of RCOs. It's going to be a lot of, if we work hard now with education about, you know, in creating responsive, cultural responsive services. That's my goal. You know, if we continue to build that, we're going to be fine in 25 years. You know, those kids in 25 years, they don't have to be like, you know, they're going to have an option. You know, like treatment. I told you saying that in mobilized recovery. How a therapist, a white therapist, is going to deal with a 14-year-old black kid that's smoking weed. He cannot fucking relate. But if you there say, and you talk his language, if you don't talk my language, you're not going to help me. If you understand my culture, forget it. You're not going to help me. I remember having a therapist from white kid from Columbia University. He was powerful. In New York, I had a therapist. He was good, but he was white from Jersey. You know, he was good, but it wasn't the same when the Puerto Rican lady approached me, because we talk about the same issues. And then what's going to happen 25 years from now? If we continue having this conversation, if we continue building RCO, recovery organization community, a specific responded cultural responsive services, that's what we need. And we have to make all organizations respect that law. We got to tell them, continue to tell them, listen, where's the website? Where's the outreach for community of colors? Where's the website in Spanish? Because if you go now, they don't have even a website in Spanish, you know? And these people manage millions. Drug partnership, the Center for Addiction, drug partnership for drug-free kids, million. And they, you know, they got a drug partnership for the drug-free kids. They got a line, and they got the only one they have like a line, Denise Mariano in Spanish, and they got, you know, a little small something Spanish, but they got a lot. Everything is about opiates. All the funds, all the bills, everything, all the money goes to the opiates. If you see that, that's the only thing they talk. They are obsessed with that. And we talk about it's a rising, crack is a rising, cocaine is a rising, meth is a rising, benzodiazepine, every drugs. This is not about the opiate epidemic. This is about the addiction epidemic that is going to grow now with this problem. It's public health. It's going to be a public health issues, because people are the uncertainty, you know, like all the situations that are happening now, we're going to see in a year, people are affected by the trauma. I lost my job. I'm drinking more. Quarantine, I'm drinking more.
Yeah. We got about 10 more minutes, man. I want to ask you about two other things. First, the legalization of marijuana. What's your sense of that legislation? I mean, should it happen? Is it going to happen? But I think more importantly, what I'm wondering is what's the responsibility of those who are making money off the legalization in contributing back positively to the society? I don't think we took this role, this kind of relationship with the prohibition, the legalization of alcohol, right? We just essentially let them run free. And I don't think they're still giving back to the society in the way that they've caused some destruction in society. Not to say that some people can't do it responsibly, but it gives us a chance to ask this question of legalization of marijuana. Should those who make millions, billions off legalization be contributing back positively? So I'm just wondering, when I say legalization of marijuana, what are some things that come up for you? What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I always tell people, what is the difference between why marijuana is illegal and why alcohol is legal? And I think people, I was talking to the Spanish community the other day, and I say, you know why alcohol is illegal and marijuana is illegal? And alcohol is legal? Because back in the days, in the 20s, the production of marijuana was in Colombia, Mexico, and didn't have control and taxes. White people from Germany and all that, they control alcohol. That's why it's legal. That's why it's legal. And then now you got people in jail for 3 ounces of weed in the 80s doing 20. And now, oh, it's fucking beautiful, Colorado. Let's all the hippies smoke weed. It's fucking legal. They make all this money. If you want to legalize marijuana, I think it's okay. Some people can smoke. It's like alcohol. Alcohol is a deadly drug. Alcohol kills more people than anything, and it's legal. Why? Because white people control the taxes, right? Then, if you want to legalize marijuana, we have to advocate all those people that their time, they're gonna be out. All those people, because the drug won't work. How the fuck now the little kids, white kids are smoking weed, and it's a joke now. Well, you have to understand that people are doing time, 20, 30, 10 years for an ounce of weed. We have to pay those people for what we have to build a community of colors. If you want to tell about legalization of marijuana, you have to build with those billions. You have to build RCO in community of colors. We have to put money in community of color because this is the people more affected by the war of marijuana. Okay? It's not a fucking joke now because now it's a joke. Oh, you go to Colorado and you're smoking weed and they making all this money. Now it's okay to smoke marijuana because the government make a lot of money. And they producing the marijuana here. And it's not marijuana. It's not the marijuana that I smoke from the street. It's marijuana built in lab. It's drugs. You know, they put like fucking everything there. You don't know what you're smoking, right? That's another fucking. But if you want to legalize marijuana, you have to. You know, what are you going to do with the people who suffer the most? Let's put the millions there. Let's build treatment specifically culturally responsive. Let's go to El Barrio. Let's go to those community of color and talk about mass education. You know, and then you can legalize the fuck. You understand what I'm saying? But it's going to be all those going to be legal. You know why? Because they're making that money. Now it's convenient for them to be illegal.
Well, the other thing I was going to ask you about is young people. You know, I know that's a passion of yours. One of the many things we share in common in reference to young people and really giving back positive young peoples to our communities. I'm wondering, what are you saying to young people around the challenges of addiction and recovery? If you were talking to 1,000 high school kids, seniors, let's say, getting ready to graduate high school, what's your message to young people as we're now dealing with not only some of the challenges of addiction and recovery, but also COVID-19, a time of some uncertainties, some fear, you know, political strife. I mean, just, man, a lot of stuff out there. And I'm just asking you, based on your life experience, the good work you're doing today, you have a chance to say something to young people. What's your brief, what's your message to them?
You know, I can say to them, you know, education, you know, you have to go 300 years, you have to go 100 years, 50 years, and understand the war on drugs. You have to understand the consequences, the consequences of drugs. You have to understand different level in prevention. You know, you have to get educated and talk about recovery and talk about addiction. It's not drug addicts. You know, drugs, and this is what I'm going to say. Drugs been around since the beginning, let's put 3,000 years, the beginning of men. 3,000 years, okay? We have this problem. You see in the Bible, you see how alcohol affected, you know, human being and behavior. You know how long we've been dealing with a solution? Only 100 years. 3,000 years, 100 years. okay? And the last 25 years, we get it resolved. I think we have to understand, like, drugs, there and they've always been there. Some people cannot use drugs. Some people can use recreational, but you have to understand, you have to get educated, and what you can do to your community, how you want to understand legalization of marijuana, what is really, the drug on world. You have to understand and produce solution, because there's a lot of great people doing advocacy and creating system. But when you create that system, and the people most affected. Okay, the people most affected in the last 100 years, people of colors, and then white people. That's reality. Let's start there. They understand drugs in another level. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, say no to drugs. No, we have to educate them. The new language of addiction. It's a compassion. It's a treatable disease. This is a condition. And then we have to educate it in the new prevention. I'm talking to Hanley Foundation. Last week, they got a mass 60,000 kids in Florida in prevention. I'm talking to them to translate those services in Spanish and culture appropriate for people of color. That's what we need to do. Organizations like that get the education, the right education. And we're not going to talk about all drugs. Kill you. No. Let's talk about the process. Let's talk about, my mother had an addiction. She's not a bitch. She's not a crack whore. She got a problem, because when Whitney Houston came out on TV, everybody was laughing. When it was laughing, crackhead, this fucking crazy. But when people come now, all the artists, all the actors from Hollywood, they feel compassion. Oh my God, he almost died. Because this is going to kill everybody. But we have to have that conscience and that education to kids. We got to educate kids before they get high. That's their work, This is what,
No, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. I was going to ask you to tell people how to find you and learn about the work you're doing, LARA, but also, what about the next 10 years? What are you thinking about? What kind of goals, what kind of projects? You got anything you cooking up, you excited about over the next 10 years?
Yeah, the first project that we already built a curriculum in Spanish for recovery support services and peer recovery coaching. We're gonna Monday. I'm gonna have the first Narcan training in Spanish. This is insane. Okay, the first Narcan training in Spanish, in collaboration with the Philadelphia Department of Health. Okay, this guy Elvis. He's a Puerto Rican guy working with the Department of Health. We got the first Narcan training. I'm going to continue to build Narcan training, recovery support services in Spanish. I'm working in doing that, Netflix documentary, because in Netflix, you can see all the, Mexican drug lord and Pablo Escobar and all the shit that people like, killing people and money. Let's focus on the solution, Netflix. You know what I'm saying? Let's focus on the solution. Let's do a documentary about how we're going to deal with the solution. Because they got thousands of shit and killing people and drugs and crack and all that, But let's focus in creating a documentary, okay, that's going to give people hope, okay, when they see you. When I saw you there and you say, I'm a cracker with a PhD, that shit blew my mind. When I saw you there in mobilized recovery, you were speaking to all these people, everybody was like, Jesus, you blow these people, blow their minds. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we need. Representation, cultural representation, education, and that in the next 5 years, that's what I'm going to do. Documentary, platform information. I'm on Facebook, Latino Recovery Advocacy. I'm building a website right now. I'm going to give you my email, lagares441@gmail.com. And I got my email too for LARA's information, info@lararecovery.org. And my phone number, 561-727-7588. I'm on Facebook. I got a couple of pages in Facebook, and I'm always open, to collaborate, to continue to build recovery support services for people of color, translating. I'm doing a lot of translation of Bill White, materials, education, because education is going to change everything, because I got a group of everything is like the first all recovery group. That's a group integrated, like families, therapists, people of recovery, everybody integrated. The first in Spanish, right? And we explore how the culture is affected. And you have to see these mothers, and you have to see these people. I have people from Mexico, from here, from there, and you have to see how they affected. And we're going to break the stigma in the culture, because a lot of people are afraid. How am I going to talk about drugs? How am I going to talk about my family? You don't talk about your secrets, And I say, no, it's okay to talk, It's okay to get help, It's okay, breaking that stigma in the culture. And they come in, little by little. Rob Russian in Colorado PCA, he building the first bilingual RCO, and he put in money, and he get a grant to get me there. You know what I'm saying? And he's doing the effort, and he don't speak Spanish, and he's white, but he's doing the effort to do it. I think, if we have to continue the conversation. Education is the key. Education is going to transform your soul and your heart, And if I educate 3-4 coaches in Spanish, they're going to train 10 more, and then 100 more, and we're going to continue. And listen, I went 40 times to treatment. 40 times I went to treatment. And thank God my family had money. And thank God I spoke a little English, you know what I'm saying? To be able to, my uncle was a doctor in 1987. If he understood that addiction was a treatable disease, right? That's why I had the chance, right? Mm. I'm saying with this, I'm consistent, okay? I'm going to be consistent with this. Nobody's going to stop me.
Yeah. Well, listen, my brother, we have been talking about collaboration. I think it's time. So I want to say right now that from this moment forward, if there's any way we can collaborate, let's do that. Let's just make an effort to maybe once a month, just get together and just talk about what we got going and ways we can collaborate. And so I'll reach out to you, follow up with you. And I just appreciate you just having open arms from the moment I met you, man. And just very proud of the work you're doing and the global cultural competency that you're bringing to the work of recovery and addiction, man. It's just so needed. I want to close out by asking you, we've had a little extra time on our hands. Some people are watching stuff. Some people are listening to stuff. Some people are reading stuff. Is there anything you've been binging on, you've been listening to, you've been reading that you'd like to share with our audience? We're trying to create a what to do while on quarantine list. Anything you want to share?
I think like a couple of books, yeah. Yes.
The suspense is...
Yes. I'm reading William White. About recovery, you got to go to William White, okay? He talked about, he said, diverse. He's got the only white paper for cultural appropriate services. He published my paper, William White Papers. He got the biggest arcade in recovery. You got to read Johann Hari, Chasing the Scream. This guy came from London. This guy, Johann Hari, Chasing the Scream, he came from London and explored the war on drugs. And he got the history of Billie Holiday. This white kid from London come all the way from London to explore. And he said Chasing the Scream because he's not in recovery, but he used to listen to his uncle withdraw from heroin. And that's why he came all the way from London to understand why the war on drugs. Chasing the Scream. And then we got Intoxication. This is explore the history of drugs. This is insane, it's a lot of good information here. Intoxication. Brené Brown. I think Brené Brown is changing the culture, about vulnerability and how, vulnerability is okay. And now all this, the view that she explored, Brené Brown, all her books,
And tell us the name of that Netflix series that you mentioned that's also possibly something people could check out that you mentioned was solution oriented.
No. I say that we have to build that.
You have to build that.
It's nothing in Netflix. You know, it's nothing in Netflix.
Gotcha.
I think that we have to build.
Gotcha.
A document in the solution. But you guys, you can see, you know, like they say, The Anonymous People is a documentary about how everything came out, you know, and we're going to talk about Recovery Republic, you know, and RAP, you know, the Recovery Advocacy Project is a lot of integration there, you know, that it's the result of mobilized recovery, you know. I think Ryan Hampton, you know, is doing a great work integrating, you know, and that meeting you together.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And I'll see you hopefully this year as well.
Of course.
Brother Angel, man, I appreciate your time, man, your energy, your passion. But most importantly, man, you're not talking about it, you're being about it. And that's something that I just really have always appreciated about you from day one. And I'm looking forward to staying in touch. Thank you for joining us, sharing your work. And we're definitely looking forward to continuing to follow you and share the wonderful work you're doing, man. Take care of yourself. Be safe down there in Florida.
Be safe.
Peace.